resolution. And Cynthia Arnson, Director of the Latin American Program here at the Wilson Center. Thanks for joining us. Let me ask you first, a day of interesting conversations and robust discussion. How do you feel about the event? Are you happy with the outcome?
Yes, I'm very happy and very glad. I think it has been a very good discussion. We had different positions. We had a critical position from former Secretary
of Defense, Minister of
No,
Defense.
ella es secretaria. Mata Lucía.
Is a senator.
Okay, we had a very good discussion with some positions, with different positions. For example, a senator that she has been critical, at the same time in favor of peace, and at the same time we had other positions from the speakers in terms of particularly very important to have and to see how some officers of the Colombian Armed Forces are very much from a constitutional perspective and democratic perspective in favor of the peace agreement, and particularly to see their role, which is very important and crucial.
Cindy, what are some of the main takeaways for you from today's discussions?
Well, I think we've known for a long time that there is a great deal of polarization in Colombia over the peace accord, over the content, over the strength or the depth of the mechanisms for transitional justice. But I think what we come away from today is a much deeper appreciation of the specific differences and the answers that each side has to one another. And I think that it's been very enriching to hear the people who have incredible expertise on the issue of transitional justice, but also a concern about overall strengthening of institutions in Colombia as a precondition for being able to really implement the peace accord. And then another whole issue is sort of how the United States is going to relate to this. There have been very few signs from the Trump administration. There have been some indications of the desire to combat organized crime, and there are a variety of different positions that they could take, but it's clear that one fundamental issue for the United States will be how to reduce the coca cultivation that has increased dramatically over the last couple of years. So the question is how to do that, to go back to the past models of fumigation or to do it as has been laid out in the peace accord, which will take patience and time, but is fundamentally based on having economic opportunities for coca growers so that they have an option other than growing illegal product.
Along those lines, a final thought from each of you on this notion of next steps. You said patience is key. It's not just signing an agreement. There's a whole process that needs to flow forward. Those of you who are engaged in this, what are the main signposts or markers that you'll be looking at over the next coming months to see how things are progressing?
Well, the first one is the current one, which is all the disarmament and reintegration and of FARC. I think this is a very important, I would say, point and moment that will last until May. Then, of course, following this phase, is very important the implementation at different levels of all the points of the agreement. Particularly, I would say, as Cindy just said, in all the illicit drugs, but also very important, which is very much linked and connected, is the rural reform, and the rural reform that the government needs to implement based on the agreement is extremely important because it is the base, I would say, to some extent of the modernization of Colombia, of a future different Colombia. And this is what some people in the team of the Colombian government, like Humberto de la Calle, they have been expressing that the peace agreement will be the first, I would say, the first moment of a modernization process of the Colombian society. And now for the future, I think that there are many challenges. For me, the most important and crucial and basic would be what we could say is a little bit as a gap between a very sophisticated and important agreement and the capacities of the state to implement the agreement. And then if you allow me, I would add another one. I would say is also that during this year, 2017, is starting already informally and then formally the political process for the elections in 2018. And unfortunately, the peace agreement will be in the middle of the turbulence, of the political turbulence with many candidates, many political splits and divisions, and would be very important, as Rodrigo Primi said today, it would be very important to have something like a national pact and political pact to protect the peace agreement and put the peace agreement on the one side and the political process, a general process about the country dealing with other problems as corruption or inequality that also are very badly needed.
Right. And I think it's clear that, as one of the participants said, that the peace process has become the magnet for all of this polarizing debate, whereas there is overall a general support for peace, and whether you view the glass as half full or half empty, I think depends on the perspective. So the idea is to be able to overcome the divisions that exist in order to implement the agreement. Again, the Colombian government and Colombians in general have been very good about designing very elaborate agreements and schemes, and then less good at having the state capacity to implement. So when you asked about what's the next step, I mean, this process of 180 days between when the FARC enters a concentration zone and lays down weapons is going on as of now, and will end. And then the question is, what will really happen in terms of carrying out and implementing the various commitments that exist in the accord, not just on the part of the government, but also on the part of the FARC, how forthcoming they are in terms of revealing the amount of money that they have earned in narco-trafficking, whether people are genuinely trying to enter into programs or looking for other forms of armed integration, and what is their real commitment to the democratic process. So I think there's obligations on all sides, and but there's also, it's a very promising moment that hopefully the international community will remain engaged and supportive of.
As always, stay tuned. Right. Cynthia Arnson, Mariano Aquirre, thank you for joining us, and congratulations on today's event.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.